Welcome to Smileys. So, this is the second episode of Fall of Light. We'll be talking about chapter 2 and spoilers all up to chapter 2 of Fall of Light.
Yep.
Book of the Fallen, NotME, and Forge of Darkness, etc. So, I'm Mora and I'm joined by my co host Lee. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm okay. I'm all ready to listen because
Yep.
you have like 4,000 odd words.
Yeah, something like that.
Is it
So
a
I've
fun
taken- yeah.
chapter? Is it like a.
To find fun, it's certainly a lot less action-packed than chapter 1.
Hmm.
It's rather slow, but it's like it's the Erickson kind of slow, you know. Where the character moments unveil, and you get caught up to speed, and you get a moment to catch your breath, like Galan said earlier, and so on.
He's an old man. Yeah.
He's an old man, yeah. So it's fun in that sense. But if you're looking for battles, well, Fall of Light isn't the book for you. I'm sorry.
But we already had a battle in chapter
We had
1.
one. We had one battle. Yes. What about second battle? I don't think he knows about second battle. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm beating around the bush because it's a very long chapter, and
No, just go for it. Yeah, let's start.
So I've taken the liberty to actually number the scenes
Okay.
because there's
How many
a few
scenes
of them.
do we have? Five,
Actually,
six.
I don't remember actually.
Okay, no problem. I'm just
I
interrupting
think
you.
there's
Please,
5.
please.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
5. There's 5 scenes, and I've spent 4,500 words summarizing them. Excellent. So, scene 1, I have called that damned bridge. You can
Oh, you
replace
named
damned
them.
with
You didn't just
something else.
remember. Oh, you didn't just number them. You named them. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah.
So, the chapter begins with a very gloomy, barely a smudge against the gloom. To set the tone. So, on the banks of the Dorsan Rill, atop the outer bridge, which is ostensibly the very bridge that Lord Draconis had gifted to the city a few years prior. We saw that in Forge of Darkness chapter 2 or so, which is neat. 2 lieutenants of Anamander's houseplates. Brood. The scene
They just
painted.
banter. They don't brooding. They're bantering.
They do brood very hard.
No.
The scene painted is truly bleak, and to be fair, it is following up on a pretty awful battle, and the mood is shared by Prazak and Dathanar. And 2 houseblades observe that they, in turn, are being observed by historian Raisarat from his usual eyrie of his high tower atop the citadel. They both acknowledge that this post that they're on is purely symbolic. The scene ends with the war, after all, was elsewhere, and they're not very fond of the present symbolism. Dathanar, I think, puts it best. Their pose betrays civilization's slouching departure from this world. And the 2 men seem to crumble beneath Raisarat's eye, or rather, what Raisarat symbolizes.
Hooded regard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
his hooded regard, my bad. History's judgment will therefore crush them, and the indifferent river below will welcome their bits.
Indifference is no welcome, brother. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
Just so we're both on the same page on how like bleak this fucking scene is.
It's not bleak. I find this. I'm sorry. I just find this so much fun because I
It
just
is.
like these stories.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna get to that in a bit, but Prazak and Dathanar are both like they approach bleak scenes with like a certain stoicism
It's
and
sort of-
appreciation,
yeah.
which makes it fun to read. Like, yeah, they're talking. Oh, yeah,
It's
we could
very-
honestly just
very dry.
fall into the river and we'd both drown, but then we'd lose one another. So why bother? Let's go get drunk. Yeah, that's the
No, let's
10-word
guard
summary
each
of
other.
this chapter. Yeah.
Isn't it something? Yeah. Oh, go on. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. Go on.
So the 2 of them then proceed to rather literally become the chorus of the Carcana trilogy by filling in the details in prose, of course, because it's Prazak and Dathanar of the last book. They list the causes of their present fate, starting with Anamander's wandering through the wilderness of Cruel Galain. And
There
he
is
makes...
one-
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on. There is a specific phrase there which I don't know
Is
what
it
to
about the
make of.
bulge? It's about
Yeah,
the bulge, isn't it? Yeah,
is.
okay.
What
They
is
make...
that?
I don't
Like,
know.
is there some Shakespearean meaning to that?
I
I
have
hope
no idea.
so. I don't know because my mind is not thinking Shakespeare.
We're never gonna
Yeah.
finish this, are we? Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah. To move on to Draconis' Holy Embrace by Mother Dark. Kadaspalas is blindness, and they lastly end up on themselves. The only one of these to make passing mention of is Kadaspala. If you've been keeping up with Smiley, that shouldn't be a wonder. Prazak posits that in allowing Kadaspala to paint his own room, the double entendre is rather strong with this one, they allowed his inner thoughts to spill out uncontrollably, while a canvas is manageable, a larger canvas is not.
When it leaks out of the frame, you can't manage it. So don't break the fourth wall, is what he's saying.
In similar words, Prazak and Dathanar reiterate all of what Kadaspala thinks in Forge of Darkness. Painting and art is contained and barred. Kadaspala claims it is a war, so as to not be too offensive or displeasing. In allowing an artist utter freedom to depict their inner landscape of thought, society, and the individual invite displeasure. Digression over, back to Prazak and Dathanar. The two have described what brought them here, and they now discuss their future. The Civil War is still far away, and Dathanar confesses that he envied the dead in the Hust Camp. God below, dude. Prazak responds that the river would eagerly claim him, and though he understands and empathizes with Dathanar, and so he would not stay him, he would mourn Dathanar's passing, and the feeling is evidently mutual. The two therefore agree to guard one another.
Yeah,
it is very sweet, yeah.
Sweet. Let us guard one another or something.
Yeah. And because we need to move on, with absolutely no segue, once again, Prazak shifts gears again, and he curses the poet in every word.
Yeah. I mean, they're the chorus. They get to do all this.
Let me take a moment. Yeah. Goddamn, appreciate how difficult this shit is to summarize accurately. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Dathanar therefore agrees. Curse the people who indeed deceive with words, but is the lack of language truly any better? Prazak begs to be reduced to grunts like a non-existent boar in the non-existent forest.
Yeah.
And so the conversation turns back to the citadel. Yeah, that's a great passage. Like,
there is no boar.
There is no boar. There is no forest either. Yeah. So who cares?
Yeah.
Let's go with the metaphor. Dathanar professes that power thrives in complexity, and therefore language and all that it portends is a tool in the hands of the privileged. Though languages ultimately share a single starting point, they often diverge into the nobler languages, complex and perhaps ostentatious. For an example, look to Britain during the Norman conquest, the posh.
I want you to tell me about
Yes?
Greece. Is there like two different types of Greek language?
Not particularly, actually.
Like the high born, low born. There's nothing
Not
like that?
anymore. There used to be.
Obviously not now, but
There used to be a sort of like ancient sounding ish language that was thereby.
Was it called something else?
Somewhat. It sound a loose translation would be like clean one or proper one.
Okay. Pure language or something.
Pure, yeah, pure. Pure is a better translation, but it's been since superseded by the common modern Greek, which we speak now.
The Greek which you speak.
Yeah.
Okay, here we have like Sanskrit, which is dead now, but it is still being learned in schools, and some of the temple prayers and things happen in Sanskrit. But that is the language of the high caste.
Right.
I wouldn't say high born because just because you're high caste, it doesn't mean you're rich. But the language was guarded by a specific caste because that was a language in which you could talk to gods. So that was Sanskrit. And I'm sure, as you were saying, you have this.
Yeah, the same thing happened in Europe with Latin. Like Latin was until very recently, like the 60s, I think.
What?
1960s, not 1860, like 1960s. The only language in which Roman Catholic churches would do mass and communion was in Latin, which nobody speaks except for the priesthood.
Oh.
In Britain, what I wanted to mention about Britain is when the Normans, which is here code for French, invaded Britain, a lot of the more posh sound, like beef, right? Beef is French, it's Norman in origin.
Oh.
While the more, pedestrian, like swine, for instance, are Anglo-Saxon. And in general, the most swear words in English are Anglo-Saxon in origin because they're lower in...
okay.
Yeah. And you will see very often that Middle English and especially Anglo-Saxon, Low English to Middle English to what Shakespeare wrote to now evolves a lot compared to French, or rather Norman French and English, which is more or less the same root words that have barely evolved over the centuries. And if you think this is exactly what Prazak and Athanar talk about, you would be correct, which is why I'm bringing it up.
No, but I'm sure this is not like, limited examples. It must be a thing world over,
There's
right?
a lot of examples throughout history. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we should ask him.
We should ask Steve.
Just thinking about
this list is going to go very long. And we're just, we might as well just keep
don't
Steve
worry,
captive.
it's okay.
Like Oscar,
let this chapter take its time. I'm not going to. We're not going to hurry up. Let it take its time.
But yeah,
there aren't many people summarizing Fall of Light. So if we're going to do this, let us do it nicely.
Yeah. So, nobler languages, complex and perhaps ostentatious, and the peasant languages, which Dathanar claims are but grunts. And as
Can
such,
I just
those...
say
Yes, yeah, hello?
that I can understand what you're talking, and thus I reveal my privilege. Is that the next slide?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
As such, those capable of understanding or speaking the noble languages are deemed irrelevant. You wanted to say something?
No. I just love this so much. And I listened to this whole chapter today, and it's still so fresh.
Yeah. So with that said, the two agree that the less privileged are not stupid, and if nothing else, they are the ones more welcoming to change. And so the noble ones, the enlightened ones, the educated and trained ones, endlessly war against the legion of ignorant peasants. Because the ignorant are legion, they breed like vermin. I think is the quote from the book.
Mm-hmm. But there was also something about... No. I was just thinking like Gander, thinking about these same things, right? Like knowledge has to be preserved, and whatever status he has, it has to be preserved. No, I was trying to think about this passage when, these guys try to imitate some farmer who's telling his wife something.
About his knee.
Yeah.
My knee is injured, the dear wife. What happened? Well, I cannot tell you because among my mere compartment of words, I cannot describe it.
I can't find the words to describe it. Yeah.
And then he said, reduce me to grunts and whatnot.
Oh, was it before? Okay, sorry. I thought it was at the end.
It was before.
Okay.
Yeah. So, to once again state things plain, those in power seek to entrench themselves in all manners possible, and language is among the most prominent, and thus must be defended at all costs. What Mora just pointed out about Zagander, who is a bitch, by the way. It's the same. Thus, the language of power ends up being stagnant. So, the language of power ends up being stagnant. I wanted to mention something. Right, they mention at some point that the root of the word privilege is privacy, and I actually had to look that up, and it's right. It is correct. I mean, it's not exactly right, but the root of the word is very close.
There are, I think, two word origins which are brought up in this chapter: privilege, privacy,
and familiar, family. Yep.
Yeah. Go on.
Which I don't
it's
think
an
I mentioned.
Amazing chapter.
Anyway.
I think chapter 1 was just,
it is really good.
It was just warm up, but chapter 2 is when things start.
There's also a very common motif of sieges in this chapter. Like Rise brings it up, Prazak and Dathanar both bring it up. Like the enlightened ones are constantly besieged by the ignorant and stuff like that.
Okay.
It comes up a lot, so I'll let you choose what to make of that. To wrap up, Prazak and Dathanar are sarcastically claiming that they are well versed in their privileges of power, honor, and duty, thereby refuse this fate. They will not be symbols in favor of complexity. If nothing else, they would rather join the swineherds, the plebeians, the masses. And so, the duo abandons their boast upon the bridge, leave behind the civilization that so exalts and espouses complexity, to join with the riffraff of regulars in a tavern. And fuck me, this is already long as hell, it's just the first scene.
It's amazing, and you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you call scene 2?
Scene 2 is Truth Selka's Ruin, and it is probably my favorite scene in the chapter.
Fun
it's very
one.
nice.
Yeah.
So we find ourselves in a tavern, perhaps, though it's not said, the very same tavern that Prazak and Dathanar were bound to visit.
I don't think so, because the next scene where we see Prazak and Dathanar in their tavern. Okay, maybe not at the same time. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. They're bound to visit later, but not now.
Maybe, sure.
Interestingly enough, there is no central POV to this scene. We're not in anyone's head. We're observing from outside.
Yeah, it's Galan telling us the story.
It is Galan, but it's more obvious. It's not in Selkas's head. Well, actually, we don't know it's still gas. It's actually rather late in the chapter that we learn it's still gas.
Silches ruin. I'm
Silchas,
going
right?
back to saying Silches
Yeah.
because
So
yeah,
we observe the duo of Gris and Farrell and an unnamed Tiste, which we know is still gas. Silchas. Discussing the former's love interests. So he refers to a woman as profoundly attractive in a plain sort of way.
plain.
And it's a bit
It cannot
unclear
be
as to
said
whom.
in
Yeah,
any other way.
yeah, yeah.
He's not talking about Kilimanjaros, right? He's just talking about some other
So
random.
I think the ambiguity is on purpose. I point
Yeah.
this out. Like we see as the chapter progresses that he's talking about some barmaid that he's trying to woo, but the
He no no
yeah
no. I think he's like he doesn't notice that this barmaid is into him till Silches points it out.
maybe.
Okay, go on. Anyway, just
But anyway, yeah, um, yeah. And certainly, therefore, like whether he's talking about Kilmandaris or someone else is a bit deliberate. That's what I'm
it
saying.
could be
So
Ferren, the border swoop.
maybe,
That's the last one he met when and
yeah,
she's sort of handsome in a plain sort of way.
yeah,
Wouldn't you say?
profoundly attractive.
Sorry. Yeah, profoundly.
So yeah, in any case, Grisden seems to be dancing about a certain subject as he talks about a woman whose beauty only arrived at second or third glance.
Third glance. Oh God.
Such women, Grisden says, do not consider themselves beautiful, and those that seek them out, like the Zathanai himself, are often ridiculed and cast out by those very women that take their compliments as mocking. They do not possess the vanity that rides haughty as a naked whore on a white
on a
horse,
white
and
horse.
dear God, what the fuck is
I
that
know.
metaphor?
And I think he's faced that specifically to make Silches open his mouth. Till then he's not like engaged in the conversation. And it's only when he goes far out and says naked whore on a white horse, and that's when he pipes up like, what is it? Is it the best thing you can
Yeah,
say or something
I
like
will
that?
not. Yeah, I will not talk about your taste as Athena or something like that.
Oh no,
yeah.
something like if this is your advice for love, I'm just going to seek it somewhere
That's
else. and
later.
love it.
He's like
Oh, that's
something
later.
about
Sorry. Yeah.
he just like repeats like naked whore on a white horse. I will not discuss your taste. Something
I mean,
like
see,
that.
this is like a tip for you. If your friend is not listening to you, just throw a wild metaphor like
Yeah.
this, and you're just going to get their full attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So the gist of the conversation seems to lie beneath whatever Grisden is spouting right now, albeit I do assure you it is indeed relevant. And it is only a matter of time until Silchas cuts to the chase. What
finds it,
purpose does Grisden have in Garganas?
Hmm.
The Azathanai takes a moment before confessing that, in concordance with his title of the Protector, Grisden Farrell's presence dissuades other Azathanai from falling upon Coral Galen and destroying it, which is okay. Neat. We didn't know that before.
Is it all you're going to say? Okay.
He holds the gates and he fouls the lock like a bent key. Which is
there is another metaphor coming, so just keep going.
Yeah. So Silchas makes I nailed it. Yeah. Silchas makes passing mention of the fact that the other patrons of the tavern are cowed by all that is unknown and unknowable, and it is here that I will bring up Mother Dark's quote to Emerald and Forge of Darkness. High Priestess, make of your worship an unflinching recognition of the unknown and indeed the unknowable.
Yeah.
Grisden replies that the future is a woman much akin to the woman described earlier. At first glance, it's awful. On the second and third glances, however, one comes to appreciate the small things. And when one comprehends the beauty of the future, it leaves you.
For something better.
For something better, yeah. Silchas queries if Grisden can see the future, or if it's just a matter of faith, and Grisden responds that faith entrances, hint, hint, quote, hint, hint, yeah, you get it. Perhaps what Grisden protects in truth is that future. The two men circle back to Grisden's peculiar taste in ladies, and his waning attempt at flirtation, and while Silchas brings up Mother Dark's priestesses, Grisden replies that he would rather not wiggle the bent key.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. That's a metaphor. I think we should stick to like water metaphors. Yeah.
That is a metaphor, yeah. So I make the case here in the summary that this wiggle the bent key refers to Emerald. As in, Emerald is the gate to Mother Dark. Silchas interprets it as Draconis being the gate to Mother Dark. Another reader can interpret it as some random priest as being the gate to Mother Dark. You're free to interpret it however you want. That's the beauty of the metaphor.
Go on.
Grizzen therefore purports that he is protecting Mother Dark from Atatna interference, which is a lofty accusation in Silchas' eyes, which sounds hilarious because we know that Draconis and Mother Dark are effectively locked in a room together. And moreover, Grizzen's flavor hides in the darkness, further compounding atop all the other subtle accusations thrown Silchas' way. And the dice finally snaps. Does Grizzen believe that Silchas' albinism announces its loyalty towards Mother Dark?
And yes, doesn't it? Yeah.
And just ouch. Silchas gets disrespected a lot in this chapter, and it's a bit like, come on, you guys, he's trying his best.
This is a chapter, yeah, the other scene. Yeah.
Upon further interrogation of Grizzen's purpose, the Asathanite discloses that he is present because a friend has promised peace, and it would be best for all involved if his presence kept Draconis and Kaladin Brood separate, for reasons that we are not told.
Yeah.
His words insinuate to Silchas that by his presence alone, he has kept Mother Dark and Lord Draconis blind to the world around them. He says, how would I know? It's dark in there.
It's dark in
which
there.
Is amazing, God. And I love him. And he elaborates that he's not entirely jesting. Draconis' Terrandai has manifested the Gate of Darkness in the Citadel, and that force alone buffets anybody who tries to get close, Grizzen included. Silchas begins to question his friendship, and no fucking wonder, with Grizzen, and he leaves the Asathanite desolate and alone. He's not one, however, to fall to abject misery, and so Grizzen beckons the serving woman he'd been eyeing all night close, and the scene closes.
Yeah, thankfully.
So no water-based metaphors here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts here? I think that
beyond what I already shared, I don't think so. This is a brilliant chapter to showcase how Erikson puts forth a metaphor that sounds a bit not relevant to the chapter at all. It can be said no other way. She was profoundly attractive in a plain sort of way.
Yeah.
And then she was a woman that was deserving of second or third glance, and then he brings it back oh yeah, maybe that's the future that we want. Maybe the future is a woman deserving a second or third glance. And maybe what you were protecting is that future. And so on and so forth. And it's very nice. And then it ties into Emerald Lanier and Rise Around talking now about wiggling the bent key. And just, do you see why we think this book is peak Erikson? I think you see why we think this book is peak
Erikson. Erikson is at some other level here. It's it takes this level of reading to, like I said in the group chat, it's Erikson's writing deserves a second or a third glance.
Yeah. So because I'm an old man, I'm gonna take a sip.
Please do. Karkanas has aged you. I think Galan would be happy.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Bastard. Right, okay. So scene
What's
3 is
what are we calling that?
A most honorable man.
Oh, that's cheating. You just picked the subbook's name.
I did.
But it made sense.
He's not the most honorable man. It's a most honorable man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's about 1,200 chapters. This is by far the longest summary, I think. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's big. So.
Can I just say that this scene reminds me, I've told this to you before, this reminds me a lot of Hunral and Sintara's conspiracy type of discussion. It's more or less the same here. Yeah, they're both drunk and they're about to go at it or something. And here these two are chased and standing on a rooftop, and that's the only difference. That's all the difference that and by that time we hate Hunral sort of. What? Yeah,
symbolism.
But the thing is, it's equally sordid, right? We like Rais Haradba now because he's nice to the the hostage child. And Emerald is not too bad. Whereas Sintara is already slut shamed and Hunral is drunk shamed or whatever. And yeah, that's the only difference. But they both have sort of parallel thoughts on what to do and what's best for the realm. They get to decide what's best for everyone else. The common good. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you caught your breath? Can you go on?
I hope so.
Yeah.
So, a bit of disclosure before we get into it. I don't like Maura brought this up, but I don't like the way these two act in this scene, and I make my displeasure known. So here goes.
Oh, why not?
No, yeah, no, nah.
They are doing what they think is best, More or less, like, except Hunral, more or less everyone is doing what they think is best for the greater good.
The greater good.
I
What is the greater? Who cares about the greater good? I agree with Nick for now. Anyway,
yeah.
so High Priestess Emerald Lanier finds Riser at a bonus area, mounted upon it as though he's about to jump, which is a recurring motif with Rise from Forge of Darkness, you may recall. He makes a snide comment on Dathanor and Prazak, and he admits that what he guards here upon his tower is perspective. What he sees as he gazes upon the bridge is dour. Emerald's assertion that simple patience will resolve the matter borders on naive optimism. Rise does not share her assumption of resolve amongst the Highborn. To make a long story short, Rise's capacity as a historian allows him the rather obvious insight of noble-born stupidity and obstinacy. Their obsession with Draconis will see the realm set ablaze, all the while Urisander and his legion systematically erase all their rivals.
Yeah.
Which is already
what
happening, by the way.
Yeah.
Emerald claims that the Highborn would muster beneath Anamander. Silchas has already began making preparations and forging alliances, and Rise Haran claims that those alliances are the gratitude of chains.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It's not immediately clear who is training whom. My interpretation, which yours may differ, is that Rise purports that Silchas' alliances are his way of giving thanks to the nobleborn that have chained him to this position. In other words, if he goes down, they go down too.
Oh, I thought it was the other way, that these guys, they sort of worship Mother God, and so because as the sons, they're asking them to stand with them in battle. So they seem like chained to stand with them. I thought the chains were going in the opposite direction, but yeah, valid. Both are valid. Yeah.
What did Felicity say? How's your chains?
I don't know.
Chains go both ways. Chains
What did
bind both
Kilara
ways.
say in Told the Hounds?
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Sklar said the same thing.
Yeah,
give me no choice.
That's the better
Give
one.
me no choice. Fine.
Oh God.
Yeah, okay.
No, we are not getting into Told the Hounds now.
Yeah. That would make sure this episode never ends. Anyway, yeah. So that's a somewhat cold interpretation. So let's somewhat try to analyze Silcas's tradition thus far. His two brothers are gone, with one in obvious grief and the other frolicking about a forest. His goddess and her consort are hidden away in a chamber which he cannot access, and she does not answer his prayers or calls. The Husk Legion, Border Swords, and the Wards of the Outer Reach have been functionally destroyed, as well as a handful of houseblades of different noble houses. In simple terms, Silcas is fucked, and both he and Rise know it.
Yeah.
Whether or not I'm actually correct in interpreting Rise's answer, Mora will already give a different one, or if Rise is indeed correct in his assessment of Silcas' position, we shall see. Emerald, speaking on behalf of everybody, begs Rise to lighten her mood, and he relates an episode about Cedarpool and the priestesses, which only really functions to showcase the decadence of Coral Ghislaine, but I at least appreciate the effort.
It's not. I don't know. That was just like a dumb thing in the middle of all this. In my mood.
Exactly.
Okay, have a sex joke here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, oh yeah, the world is burning, but at least he got to almost get banged.
Like with 7 people. 7 priestesses.
7 people.
And what was that thing about him being soft like a pillow and
It invites a certain angle of repose.
Oh God. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're going on. We are moving on.
Anyway, Rise mentions Endist's stigmata and bleeding, and questions whether or not such a show would draw out some of his life force. Emerald, thinking about her mirror and how it too might be stealing from her youth, fears the precedent of blood magic, and Rise indeed concurs. Mother Dark confided Emerald and that she had indeed fled the power present in Endist's blood, and Rise notes, half in flattery perhaps, that the priestess has a growing privilege with Mother Dark. And he also got to the chase. What is Emerald planning to do?
Yeah, this is when we reach the meat of this conversation. Yeah.
This is why I don't like this chapter. Anyway, so basically,
have your drink. Have your drink. Yeah.
Basically, Emerald wishes for Draconis to be set aside. She believes, falsely by the way, but you knew that that he
You don't.
surrendered most of his power to Mother Dark in fashioning the Terrandai and manifesting the Gate of Darkness. And though he is revered by the Atathanai, that surely must be because of his proximity to Mother Dark. So to her credit, even Emerald knows that reeks of horseshit, but she's not particularly interested. Draconis must go if peace is to return to the realm.
So who best to make him stand aside? Who's the best person to
we're
do this?
getting to that. Rise is at the same time critical of this plan because we're asking
just a
Draconis to
contrarian.
sacrifice himself. He is, but he's also very much complicit. While he knows that
definitely,
neither Mother Dark nor Draconis nor even Lysander would agree to this plan, and this goes terribly against Draconis' character, and also this is just cold, callous, and cruel. He's complicit.
No, Emerald actually legit suggests that Mother Dark can have a secret room and keep.
God, that was just what the
is
fuck?
so-
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Drag the Chad to be kept hidden away in a room. Okay, this is spoiler territory, but yeah. We should do that editing
Excuse me.
where we should zoom in.
Excuse me. Right.
Yeah.
So Emerald's inner monologue laments the fact that Mother Dark has not made her will clear to all yet. The goddess but indulges her lover in his clumsy expressions, whatever. And Emerald wonders if it would take Lysander bearing the brunt of his legion upon Carcanus to awaken her. Rise coldly replies that Emerald would have to see Draconis killed, and she can't argue against that. And here we see more of Rise's complicity somewhat evolving into full-blown malice, because, he covers it well enough, but this is just malicious. He thinks the plan, and they just, we can't just put him aside. We're going to have to kill him, but we can't kill him. We can't make Lysander's legion kill him either, so we have to use one of us.
So who is the best person for that? A most honorable man.
Malice. Pure malice. Rise doesn't necessarily have anything against Draconis.
Malice
Malice
burns.
burns. Right, Malice burns.
Yeah.
In the oven. Rise did not necessarily have anything against Draconis, but the two of them haven't even come close to exhausting any other options. And the plan they concoct ends up being, let's throw in the life of three very different, very powerful people. No, right, Summaries. Effectively, Rise understands that whoever ends up killing Draconis will earn Mother Dark's condemnation, which is true. Despite this fact, they need Lysander to be in good standing with Mother Dark for the marriage to actually work out. Come on.
I mean, this marriage.
Guys.
Yeah.
And nobody among Mother Dark's worshippers would willingly kill Draconis. Keyword willingly. Rise attempts to divest responsibility from himself, and Emerald rightfully shuts his ass down, and possibly the only thing in the scene that she does right.
Yeah, that is good, yeah.
Oh no, you just dance around words because you can't bear to live with them. You just chew around the crystal. Or is the act of chewing reward enough for you? And then Rise is maybe you're right. Okay, let's make Anamander do it. Malice.
And do you remember, I think in the first chapter we had some bits about necessity. What is necessity? It hides behind things like loyalty and courage and honor. So we're going to talk about honor, which is going to serve necessity.
Yep.
And the necessity is, peace to the realm, which is decided by Emerald and Rise her on a rooftop. So go on. Go on. Yeah.
I'm trying to calm.
Yeah.
I'm
Let
trying
the
to
hatred,
physically
let
calm
the
down.
hatred.
Okay.
Yeah. Flow through. Yeah.
Good. Right. So So I mentioned earlier that there's a motif of sieges, and they bring it up here again, right? Because to get to Mother Dark, they need to get to Draconis, and to get to Draconis, they're going to need to get to Anamander, and to get to Anamander, they're going to need a back door through his walls, and that back door is his fury. And they concoct a very elaborate plan, of, okay, so we're going to make a battle, and that battle is going to be, Anamander and Draconis, and the Highborn versus Lysander, and then Draconis will march with Anamander, and then the Highborn are going to see Draconis' houseblades.
Yeah.
And then they're going to leave the field, and then Anamander, because he's an honorable guy, he's going to stand with Draconis, and Draconis is going to stand with him because they're friends. And then they're going to get wiped off the map, and then Anamander will blame the houseblades of the nobles, and then he will in time eventually come to understand that, okay, this was all necessary, this was all necessity. And so he's going to blame Draconis, and he's going to kill Draconis, and then we're going to get the marriage. And if that sounds like the most contrived plan since, I don't know, A Dark Knight,
Yeah.
it probably is.
A Dark Knight. What's that?
The Dark Knight, it's the second movie in the Batman trilogy. It's a very good movie, by the way, one of the best, but it has some
I
very
would
contrived
not.
plans.
Oh yeah, sorry. I have thoughts on Batman, but some other day I'll share them.
Yeah. Anyway.
So this is their plan. Their super simple, straightforward plan.
Yeah.
That
So this
Anamander
plan
will just suddenly just chop Draconis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This plan effectively hinges on abusing Anamander's honor and Draconis' honor and pitting them against one another because it's necessary.
At this point, do you think they have the house plates or the rest of the highborn under them, or they just assume it's going to happen, or they just
Sulcas is
assume that all the
mustering right
highborn?
now
Yeah, but why would this give up battle just because Draconis showed up?
because they hate his guts and because his house plates destroyed the.
No,
Fuck,
you know what?
the
What
mortal
this
swords.
plan assumes? This dumb plan.
Yeah.
It assumes that nobody has brains. It assumes that these two plotting idiots are the only ones who have.
No shit. And you know what the worst part is? It probably is going to come to pass because nobody has brains
I don't
in
know
Coral
about.
Galen.
I don't remember what happens, but
The only fucking person in Coral Galen who has brains and is not a child is Hunral, and that says a lot. God, I hate this guy.
yeah.
And
Okay.
you have the children. You have Rennek, you have Orphantal, you have Renar. All of them have much more brains than anyone else in this fucking. Excuse me.
It must be so much fun, right? Like these two just standing there and thinking, "Oh yeah, this is what is going to happen," and yeah, this obviously this will lead to this, and yeah, oh done. You're smart. I'm smart. Let's go have a drink. It's like that. Yeah.
So in effect,
are you-
the two of
are you
them, as
happy?
I said,
We can-
have. I'm very happy. Yeah. So, there is one interesting passage I want to highlight. Is like, Rise Harad goes, "I love this realm too much." Rise Harad paused, as if to taste the words for himself, to see it destroyed. Like even Rise is not sure if he actually loves this realm enough to put two of the people he actually likes against one another.
Yeah.
He does eventually. He concurs to Emerald's plan, but yeah. Anyway,
Sure.
Emerald, with her conscience screaming, resolves to trap this crime in her mirror, where it will burden her no longer. She also reveals that she has written to Santara as an equal, and so the plan begins in earnest, with Rise Harad as an accomplice to the crime rather than a complicit bystander. The world which the two of them envision is the most lonely one, in exploiting the weaknesses of others, sieging their fortresses. Again, that motif.
Yeah.
One must take care not to reveal their own weakness, which in turn means they can never form true interpersonal relations. Just in case you thought about feeling bad about either Rise or Emerald. When all this is done, the river will find the two with their arms elbow deep within its waters, washing away the crimes committed here. If there can be horrors of history rise, then we are surely in their company, Emerald intones, and I'm inclined to agree. As Renara would put it in the last chapter, avarice makes horrors of us all.
The last chapter. You're really quoting something from the last chapter.
No, I mean the last chapter, as in
Oh,
chapter 1.
the previous chapter.
The last chapter, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's so familiar, and I haven't read the last chapter in a while. So,
Yeah, I think. Side note: she brings it up because the child gets murdered, and the only reaction is like a horror going like, "Oh yeah, I won that wager.
I won, yeah.
You owe me money." So, symbolism. Moving on. Scene 4.
so
which
that
is
was
another.
a good scene. What do you call this one?
In the end, it all meant nothing.
Oh
Which is
God,
another,
which one is this?
It's in the salon.
Endest. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The sad one. Step by step, the pilgrims. They make a holy
Endest-
shrine. Oh,
Yeah, which
it's
as
beautiful. You should just read
as
it
Maura
out.
just
Yeah.
mentioned, yeah. It starts off with step by step. Pilgrims build a path. Pilgrims plural in the beginning.
Yeah.
And this harrowing ordeal has transformed him into a jaded old man at a particularly young age. He thinks on the pilgrim's path, each aspiring to another pilgrimage to the site of Andorist's home, where they seek some spiritual awakening, some measure of understanding, and how they find nothing of value. They saw the artifacts of past slaughter, but they understood nothing of their meaning. They would conjure up past scenes of atrocities. They would feed their imaginations, but it was all for naught, for no such awakening would be forthcoming. And this sinks into the mire of nihilism, and it's hard to not feel pity for him, which is a nice contrast to Rise and Emerald from earlier. And I'm going to stop. I'm sorry. The young priest relates the many self-granted titles he now has, and how the other priests look to him as a paragon of wisdom and virtue, while in truth he believes he is nothing of the sort. Had he the courage, he believes he would tell all of them not to follow, for Endist but walks to the grave. God damn, this guy's dour.
And he stays down till told the hounds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He paints a very bleak picture for the future of Curt Ghislaine, which, when coupled with Endist's flashbacks in the Book of the Fallen, is oddly harrowing in and of itself. Not long before the scene, Endist had seen Orphantal perform mock battles with ribs, playing out the boy's fantasies of being stabbed in the back and dying a hero. And Endist once again paints a bleak portrait of the scene, claiming the shadows painted nightmares in waiting. We are then taken back with basically no segue. We are then taken back to a flashback between Lord Anamander Puric and High Mason Kaladin Brood on the threshold of Andorist's home, at the tail end of Chapter 20 of Word of Darkness. Kaladin speaks of lost monuments to past causes, made by his hand, all raised up in civilization's final moments, raised in hope, in answer to futility and denialism. All of them now adorned ruins, of course, else this parable would not sound so pivotal. Enrique is therefore unimpressed. Is the hearthstone he crafted for Andorist to be similar? From what we hear of Endist and the pilgrimage he undertakes, the answer might just be yes. Kaladin replies that not only does he not know, but he can't know. What he intended with the hearthstone will be lost to the sands of time, and only the hearthstone itself will stand. He is not the voice of posterity, and neither is Anamander Rake.
And then, yes.
And then we learn the name. Yeah, we learn why the name.
Oh, no. And then he says, I will not raise any monuments to you.
There is, we still have quite a bit to go.
Oh, we have a bit.
That.
Okay, sure. Okay. Yeah.
We also learn that Rake is an Azathanai word that means strength, and Puric is an honorific granted by Cruel, who was a woman at the time. This is important. It comes up later, but just keep in mind that Cruel's a woman. Was a woman when he granted Namander.
Cruel can change genders whenever they feel like. Yeah. Every few centuries.
But yeah, he
aren't we
granted
doing
that.
NotME spoilers, so it's safe to say that.
No. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. So
it doesn't matter.
We're gonna get to that when this.
Let's not.
Yeah, this is important. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So he granted the honorific of Puric to Namander, who is Rake's father. So Anamander claims that he does not feel any of the strength that Brood purports he has, and the latter replies that none who are strong do.
Yeah.
Further, he claims that strength isn't necessarily a virtue, and no monuments will be raised in Anamander's name. Despite this, many do and will continue to worship him and expect his kindness as deserved, hiding in his strength's shadow. And in spite of his denial, still they would seek to worship him. Defying them would lead to Anamander's subsequent vilification, and Brood goes on a fucking allegoria of big words, expect domination, excoriation, and shit like that. It's
good. It's very nice. Yeah,
it is very nice. It's Eriksson's making a grandiose moment. He won the grandiose moment. Here you go.
And he blames us for not scouring away the romance from our vision.
Yeah,
when he does,
he gave you a big scene on chapter 2 of FOD between these two, and okay, you want another one as a treat. Here you go. Yeah. So Rake.
But you just breezed over that line which I was waiting for. I will raise no monuments to you, and then he says,
you say something that wholly pleases me.
I'm
gonna be honest with you. I'm not particularly impressed with Rake's bravado, but yeah.
No. It's not about that. It's about Toll the Hounds, when he just takes Rake's body on an ox cart, dumps him in a cave, shuts it down, and uses one single Azathanite script, which says
Barghest Cliff. It's a Barghest Cliff.
Sorry.
But yeah.
Yeah, it says grief. And
yeah.
Isn't that amazing? And it comes up here and he says, I will not raise any monument to you. And it's...
Yeah, forgive me, Rake, but strength is not always a virtue. I will raise no monument to you. The Son of Darkness had smiled then. At last, you say something that wholly pleases me.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
That pleases me wholly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rake remains unimpressed, which is a bit of a trend when it comes to his interaction with Kaladin, and he resolves to hold Kaladin to his promise of peace, and so accepts the honorific, knowing it probably led to his father's untimely death. And just thinks that the Son of Darkness could do no less, and he is probably right. Alas,
And all this.
Mother
Yeah,
Dark
yeah.
was also present for this meeting, and having heard every word, she fled once more, as Anamander once again refused to heed her lessons. Alas.
Like, what was her lesson here? He just went along with Kaladin Brood, who promises peace. It's like, what else did she expect? I don't know.
I mean,
Why did she have to flee?
is Kaladin's peace the peace Mother Dark wants? Or rather, the manner through which Kaladin achieves peace?
Yeah, that's a fair thing.
Now,
Yeah.
okay, side note, one of her closest friends just finished Fall of Light today, and he is quite unimpressed with Mother Dark's arguments.
Yeah, yeah.
So I am going to point out a few of them as we go along. But yeah, Kaladin promised peace, and he said, I do not know how said peace will be achieved. I don't know what will happen. I can't know. I know we're bloodbound, and I don't know what that means, but I will bring you peace. And last chapter of Forge of Darkness, which is 2 chapters ago, technically, he said something like, if I ask this of you, will there be peace? And Azathan and I answered, there will be peace. And so
Yeah. That's
they
where
continue,
they go out.
and
Yeah.
It might thought just came in my head. Maybe she fled because like Anamander Rake, is sort of superseding first Son of Darkness.
Oh.
Maybe. So he's adopting a new moniker for himself, which Mother Dark doesn't want or like, because
Maybe she was
strength
hoping
is not a
that
virtue.
maybe she was hoping that when they reach the Hearthstone and when this meeting is taking place, because that's when actually Kaladin Brood and Rake decide to set out, right? So that is a new development for her. Like Rake could have just easily come back, and so maybe that's why she fled. That
Maybe.
the sun has slipped out of her hand or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
So I have not
Yeah.
given any thought to this thought. This just came into my head. So here you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next scene.
Endest is wary of her presence, and though he is no doubt faithful, unlike
Yeah. Unlike others.
this is not something he asked for. A battle is coming, he knows that much, and just like other priests, he will be there to comfort the fallen. Unlike other priests, however, his task will be to deliver the sanctity of blood. And since this chapter is so obsessed with the root of words, I actually went down a rabbit hole. So, sanctus is Latin for holy, and sanguis is Latin for blood.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, they're unrelated, but the root is close enough to where it sounds like quite similar. So, I thought that was pretty neat.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
So he sees in Orphantel's mock scenes a bleak future, just as Mother Dark returns to see through his eyes, which is something he considers to be bad enough, but manageable, if not for her growing thirst. As Mother Dark's powers grow, her affinity for blood seems to grow as well. The scene
that
ends
right?
Yeah?
Is she like becoming like an elder god? Is she like, has she like started going into blood worshipping and things like that? Like what that host guy was afraid of?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So Henrold says, like, is her magic as Athenai now? And he's like, sorta, kinda, maybe. Not really. But after Draconis's like manifestation of the Terrandai and the Gate of Darkness, we see like an upshoot in her demand for blood. Right? That's when Ender starts bleeding, right? When Draconis manifests. So I think with the Terrandai, yes, sort of. But before the Terrandai, not so much.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there is some blood sacrifice involved here.
Yep. So
and her power is like sustained. Yeah. And her power is being sustained because of all the blood that is being spilled. How Mother Dark? Oh no, Mother Dark.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh no.
I know.
Yeah. So The scene ends as it began. Step by step, this pilgrim makes a path.
This
Because
scene ends, but there is still some more left.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
one
this
left,
that's a
one
big
scene
one.
left.
Yeah, yeah. Be careful when you go back inside or something like that. Yeah, yeah.
So scene 5, I have named "Pleasing is Dead" and "Dead Pleasing,"
They're displeasing. Oh God.
which is just yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If you couldn't tell
Ruinous.
just by the
We could have
title,
just
this
named it
is
ruinous scene
a
or something.
ruinous chapter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruin of all privilege. Yeah. So if you couldn't tell already, this chapter is containing Prasek and Dathanar. So just be prepared.
Like
So
it's
Captain
containing
Killaris,
them.
yeah,
Like it's not
it is
letting them out.
containing
It's
them. It is not
containing them.
there. Yeah, it is containing like the canvas, so they're manageable.
Oh, see?
See,
See?
yeah, see what I did there? Yeah, okay,
Oh,
great.
summaries have subtext. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So Captain Killaris of House Pureig's Houseplates is waiting outside the Chamber of Night. He is bedecked in full attire. His de
If you don't
facto lord,
remember, who is
yeah,
Calaris? He was like the right hand guy to Rake. He was the one who rode with Galar Barras when he went to see the Hust. And he was
yeah,
a nice guy who offered Galar that, I want you to come along with me.
mhm.
And that's how he ensures that Taurus and Galar meet. So Calaris is a stand-up guy. We know him already. We like him already. And yeah, in case, people like me who might just forget that this guy existed back then. Did something
Trying
else
to
happen with
remember.
him back then?
I
And to
don't.
him, Silkus tells him that, for a beautiful woman, my brother will make a wedding party stop and things like that, where they meet Hishtula. So
Yeah,
that's all Calaris.
I do think he turns into Mandy in chapter 15 with Galar and Harold and everything. I don't remember though.
He was the one. He was one of the guys, yeah. Like
But yeah,
Galar
he's
supports
yeah,
General Hust and Calaris joins Rake when they go to
right,
get their sword
right.
blessed and all that.
Yeah. So yeah, the more you know. Anyway, his de facto lord in Adamander's absence is Selka's ruin, and he steps past him, though Killaris voices no greeting. The former halts to converse with Killaris, and the scene unfolds with the officer effectively confessing to a consecutive failure of courage. What he sought, he dared not find, and even if he had sought it, Silgas contends that he probably wouldn't be granted it. Mother Dark offers no gift of faith to her children. No matter. Killaris is to inform Galar bearers that the Hust must be redeployed, the lack of adequate recruits notwithstanding. Killaris asks about Anamander, which is admittedly somewhat insulting. It's like, you have your orders. Oh, by the way,
You're
what's your
just
brother?
no, you're just reading into it. I think it was
No.
just yeah, but
No.
maybe maybe
I
you're
don't
right.
think Killaris likes Silgas very much.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
And Silgas rightfully scolds him. He's wearing his full armor in the Citadel as though inviting a mass panic. He has his orders, to which Silgas adds the dispatching of Prasek and Dathanar to the Hust Legion, and though Killaris offers some protest, Silgas angrily dismisses him. Something like, is everyone in this house...
Has everyone lost their
everyone...
courage in this house? Get out of my sight. And then he goes off. Sorry,
like
the
Silgas.
audiobook is
people
pretty
don't
good.
like Some people don't like Silgas, but I like Silgas. I don't know.
Yeah.
On his way back, the officer thinks on his dismissal, and he concedes the point. He is panicking, and that panic is infectious. He echoes Galan a bit here. Armor itself whispers of weakness, before moving on to more pertinent matters. Walking through the Citadel, Killaris feels stifled and suffocated. He imagines that one day, this place will lay abandoned, which isn't too hard to imagine for him, since in his time in the Forlocan Wars, he had seen plenty of great ruins. With a feeling
It's
of
not
things
hard
left...
for us to
Yep.
imagine also, because we have already
yeah.
seen an abandoned
I'm
citadel.
getting to that, but yeah.
You're getting to that, sure, okay.
With a feeling of things left unfinished echoing throughout the ages. He could see this place emptied of life, with the Temple of Dark worshipped by spiders in their dusty webs, with a man wandering through such a place finding nothing worth remembering. And you wanted to bring something up?
No, I think you have the code ready to go.
So...
This is a temple, you idiot. Get off the horse. That's the one, right?
Yeah, Yedan and Twilight have an excellent scene within the Temple of Dark. The aforementioned, this is a temple, get off the horse. Where they find the Terrandine as a dreams, which retroactively proves Killaris wrong. But I digress. Niti continues. Holy sites are impermanent. Temples, sacred groves, altars all end up eventually symbolizing failure and lost faith. But Galaris wonders if in such places gods die, then the crime was beyond any surrendering of faith. I made another note here. This oddly echoes the conversation within the Jade by Leandros and Cass in House of Change, which I'm going to quote in
You're
every
just going
goddamn chance I
know.
get.
I know. Yeah.
Killing gods is the easiest murder of all, and it is born of forgetfulness. What the Andy fail to see, however, is that it's not the gods that are important. Mother Dark is a symbol, and what matters is what she represents. And this is going to become important later, Full of Light, so I'll stop here, but the Andy are mistaking this, which also comes up in all the Hounds, right? Like, when Rake claims,
Force
like,
of
this is
Darkness
why
also.
I've refused worship, because believers shattered their icons, or something like that.
Yeah.
This comes up a lot with the Andy because the Andy keep missing the point. Yeah. Moving on. So Galaris nudges towards this line of reasoning. Perhaps, he says, holiness lies in the eye of the beholder, and holy sites merely serve as conduits to commune with the divine, be that divinity found in nature, in some deity, or in another person. Hint.
What?
Kadaspala.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh, fine. Yeah.
Where the only murder possible.
Not all of us
is that of
are, just have Skadaspala running through the back of our minds.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, yeah. The only murder possible in such areas, in such holy sites, is that of hope. Because this entire chapter is just meant to, like, wreck your mood. He walks through the Terrandai, which seems to be seething with power, and he marches to the gate to find it closed with the houseplate present informing him that the bridge is unguarded. He orders the gate unbarred and leaves to find Dathnar and Prazek through the ice and cold of Karkans's environs. He is quite aware of where the two houseplates might have ended up, and though he knows that their religion of duty is a grievous offense, he can't fault them, and he can't help himself with but one final insult to Silka's ruin. Okay, maybe more than just the one, as he wonders at Silka's unleavened generosity within Amanda's soldiers. Houseblades are beginning to look a lot more akin to private armies than actual houseblades. They are servants of House Purake.
Yeah.
Selgas is of House Purake. Come on, guys. Kalaras dreads telling his two friends about their new posting, knowing full well that it's basically akin to punishment. So
But
he enters the Guild Swan.
We are being punished just for abandoning our post, just for leaving the bridge. And
by the gods, officers. No, it's sorted, and he knows it.
Yeah. Go
on. He enters the Guild Swan, which is an obscure tavern for off-duty houseblades on account of being built in a rather inhospitable place, which is only made worse by the snow.
A book now?
And indeed finds Brezak and Nathanar, which only serves to make the scene more interesting, because there's no way I can do this scene justice by just summarizing it. I need to quote these though.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, the dead pleasing and the pleasing dead.
Yeah, it's something else. It is something else. Okay. Yeah. So Prazak's voice crossed the cramped, crowded room. Galaris, here, join us hogs in the swill. We're drunk in defeat, my friends, but see us welcome the woe and wallow over fate.
Yeah.
Mora is decidedly unimpressed.
I mean, I've read this so many times, so I don't know.
Galaris saw his friends leaning against one another on a bench backed by a wall. Ignoring the crowd of off-duty houseblades, even those that called out in greeting, he made his way down over to Dathanar and Prazak, pulled out a chair, and sat down opposite them. I'm gonna skip off most of the deals and stick to the dialogue.
Yeah.
There is pomp to this circumstance nonetheless, Prazak said, lurching forward to rest his thick forearms on the table. No highborn can truly sink to the hole of ignorance's cloying mud. We poke our faces free again and again, gasping for air.
You call this fog as air?
If this fog be air, Dathanar said in a growl. Besides, I am too drunk to swim, too bloated to drown, and too confused to tell the difference.
Yeah.
We left the bridge, this much I know, and that is a crime in the eyes of our Lord. Fortunate, then, that our Lord's eyes be elsewhere.
Are elsewhere, yeah.
Unfortunate, since I must see in his stead. That will make any man's eyes sting, Dathanar said. I'll not deny that. Calaris replied pointedly. But neither man was in any condition for subtlety.
Yeah.
With a broad, sloppy smile, I don't even know how a sloppy smile looks, to say.
I'm sure the next time you get drunk, you can just
Probably, yeah,
look at
good point.
yourself, maybe. Yeah.
Must we take our posts again? Will you berate us with cold promises? At the very least, friend, build us a fine argument, an intricacy of purpose. Hook
Yeah.
fingers into the nostrils and drag out the noble horse, so we may see its fine trappings. And you cannot not do a
What?
British accent when reading this. This is it's mandatory. Honor's bridle, pride's stirrups, duty's beat beneath the teeth, between the teeth, not beneath the teeth, like that. Loyalty's overworn saddle, so sweet under the cheeks, to take Belch's foul cousin, and I think you can.
Oh, and thankfully he's cut there.
Yeah, and he's
shut
stopped.
there,
Yeah, but pointed symbolism here.
But isn't it the same thing which we learned before? That necessity and all the rest of the trappings to make the horse move. It's the same thing. It's the same theme which keeps coming up again and again.
And it also kind of shows that
It's
they
so
just
amazing.
don't particularly think high of this.
So do you know when was the first time necessity was brought up in Force of Darkness? Like in whole Karkaras in Force of Darkness?
Yeah.
Necessity. Niels, something about like Ferren and Will and Galak, when they're all talking about hunting the last animal in the forest and all that. Something like it's
Yes.
necessity. So, we're just hunting. And that's when she shuts it down that, you can't just say necessity. Necessity kneels to circumstances or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first times we see that. Anyway, go on.
Friends, said Calaris, in a warning hiss, that is enough of that. Your words are unfit for officers of Lord Anomander's houseblades. You try my indulgence. Now be on your feet and pray the cold night air yield you sobriety. He dares it, brother. To the bridge, then. Torches approach from some dire quarter. 'Tis revelation's light to make every sinner cower. Not the bridge, Calaris said, sighing. You have been reassigned, both of you, by command of Silka's ruin. You are to join the Hust Legion.
Yeah.
They silenced them, looking upon their shocked expressions that offered Kilaris no satisfaction.
Poor
For
Kalaris.
abandoning her
He's a
post?
nice guy.
Prazak acted in disbelief. No, that crime stays between us. This matter is more prosaic. Galar Barras has terrible need for officers.
And
This is Ruin's
Lucas
answer.
Ruin's answer. Ruinous answer. Ruiner of it.
Matadathana.
Yeah.
It is indeed. Ruin. Ruinous answer. Ruin of all privilege. Ruin of life. This is actually somewhat close to Dathanar's voice in the audiobook, and I just love that voice.
Sort of. Yeah. Those two voices are pretty. The audiobook is pretty
Prazak is a lot
amazing.
more like gritty than me because I can do the grit voice in Prazak's voice without sounding ridiculous, but Dathanar is very pompous and very fun.
Yeah.
A command voiced with distinction, alas, so we hear it all too well. Our privilege to do so, nodded Prazak, in language less than obscure.
Yeah.
More than plain, brother. Just so, Dathanar. See me long for something. I can't read this with a straight face. I'm very sorry.
See me long for what?
See me long for sudden complexity. Wish me swathed in obfuscation and euphoric euphemism. I would flee to the nearest lofty tower worthy of my hurter. I would sniff and decry the state's sordid state. I'm
The
on the
state
brink of
solid
laughing.
state.
And then frown and announce the wine is too tart. Too
That.
far too tart. I will whip the servant, brother, if that pleases you. Pleasing is dead, Dathanar. Dead. Pleasing. Dathanar groaned and rubbed his face. Prazak, we should never have let unguarded the bridge. See what fate we let cross when a mere switch would have sent the hog running. So be it. I yield to simple fate and name her just. Prazak pushed himself upright. Commander Kilaris, as ever, we are, as ever, at your call. Grunting, Dathanar stood as well. Perchance the sword has a body tail to amuse us in our perfidy. My God, I cannot read this with a straight face. And the
Body
armor,
tail. Yeah, I know.
And the armor, well, it is said to be loquacious to a fault. But I'll not begrudge the warning voice, even should we fail in heeding it. Standing, Kalaras gestured to the door. Step carefully once outside, friends. The way back is uncertain. Both men nodded at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, this chapter is exhausting, but like you can see why I had to read that, because there's no way in hell I can summarize that. I have tried to
You
summarize
did.
it, but
Yeah. I can imagine.
it's
It's okay. The next time these two show up, P&D, we're just going to just read out the book. And people
Yeah.
can just skip 10 minutes and go and read
I'm
it for
okay with
themselves.
this.
But yeah, this is fine. I mean, it's good fun, and you make
It is
voices,
fun.
so it's
Yeah.
fun.
I need to like hone the voice a bit, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Please practice. Yeah.
So to
that
make
is
a
chapter
bit
two?
more serious with this,
Why do we have to get serious? This is fine.
it is fun. Like a bit more interesting analysis of this beyond
Okay,
doing
fine,
body voice.
fine.
Okay, yeah.
Fine.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. No, I mean this is just the cycle. We go from God damn, it started like okay, the river below is gloomy and dark, which contrasts to how Galan would like. How did Galan put it? Where Sanders a man who longs to clear the
Oh, well,
the
a
river of
clear
history.
sparkling. Yeah.
Yeah. Contrasts to like the Dorson Rill, which is filled with silts and dark, and you can't see the bottom and whatnot. They mentioned there's a lot of talk of like sieges for reasons, because this is following up a battle. There's talk of language, and language is obfuscation, which is pretty much the tool that Rise Harat uses to dance about. Like, okay, I'm not actually complicit in this plan. I'm just this is an exercise,
This is also what Grisenfall uses until
is
Silkus
what
asks
Grisenfall-
him direct questions.
Yep. And okay, yeah, Prazak and Dathnar attack it more indirectly in a more fun way. Like see me wished in sudden obfuscation and whatnot.
Obfuscation. Yeah.
And yeah, but you can see what Erickson is going for, and you can it works. It works, and as we said in the last chapter, it works on multiple levels because, as I pointed out, and Maura pointed out, we have very different interpretations of some very different parts, and you may have very different interpretations of the same parts. And this chapter is a lot like deep because of it's slow, and it has a lot of metaphor and a lot of double entendres.
Yeah.
Which is going
of-
to be a theme in Full of Light, so
And a lot of, lightning moods.
Oh yeah. God, this chapter was dour, dude. This chapter was like,
No.
good grief.
That whole thing about Sidorpul, you have like pages worth of such jokes coming up. So, it's like
You do?
It's like a sample. You do? Yeah. By chapter 5.
Oh yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do.
We have a
okay.
lot of stuff coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, there is more of that. That's true.
Right. But it's all in good fun.
Oh, Hannah.
Oh no.
We're gonna
You are
get to
not-
that.
You are not going to say that now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, should we wind
I
up?
think
Do we have anything more?
I don't believe so.
No, I think we did a very thorough summary.
I hope so. I hope everyone agrees because this took us 70 minutes. So we must have been thorough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we are. But this is expected. It's a nice chapter. There's multiple scenes. So, next week, chapter 3 and 4.
Yep.
Or rather, chapter 3, and then after a while, chapter 4.
Then chapter 4.
I don't know how we're going to do it.
Almost certainly. We'll figure it out. We'll figure something out.
So, bye. I think I lost you, but I'm just going to say bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.